Star Wars Skeleton Crew. What did I think? Did I like it? Did I not? Did I think it was shit or did I think it was amazing? What did I think? It was good. It was pretty darn good. And that's surprising because so far we've had The Acolyte and Tales of the Empire and the third season of Bad Batch, which was like, you know, I wouldn't say it's amazing, but it wasn't awful. It's just like kind of mid. So 2024 for Star Wars has just been abysmal. Like overall, even the comics, like it's just been very rough for fans. And then I've been seeing, we had the encyclopedia and we had all these things and books and whatever kind of like sprinkle out over the fall to winter, and things are like at least being starting to be okay now. And the encyclopedia was amazing. I was like, holy shit, I have not seen one this good in forever. um and the fact they're doing like the Kylo comic and they're doing like all this stuff with characters like at least I care about is really cool. you know and for someone who's just been fucking angry at this franchise, well, at Disney's franchise for fucking months, it was nice to finally start to get a break. And this show was very worrying to me. I was like, I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know how this is going to go. I was not expecting anything good from this show because the trailers were misleading, kind of. The Major Tom thing just ticked me off, and I was like, fucking kidding me. This is not good. And then the trailer's footage, like it showed just random shit, and it like didn't show you a lot of what you were gonna see, and it didn't do a good job of making people excited. It was just like fucking footage dump of Aden, and that's it. Um, and I saw Aden at first, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is not Star Wars. It's like my neighborhood outside. I was like, what the fuck? Why? Why are we doing this right now? And then that all got shifted to the plot, and it makes sense now of why everything is so luxurious there. So now I don't mind. I don't care about that. Which I'll get into all the details later. But yeah, my point being is I was pretty fucking pissed. And I was like, dude, this show is going to be shit like The Acolyte. I'm like, I can't expect anything good out of these people anymore. I will still watch the first two episodes the first episode out of the heart of me being a Star Wars fan. But if this is shit, and it probably will be, I'm done, right? I'm done after this. Like, I will fucking wait for Andor, right? That was my kind of view. And I hopped on, when it came out. I watched it when it came out, and I clicked on it, and I did a little prayer before, and I was like, please make this be okay. And it started, and I jumped from the first one to the second because I was so like, I don't know, I was so into the story and into the characters and like into what's going on that I just jumped right into the second episode. I didn't wait till I was like, I want to just see the rest. I want to see the rest. And I click into the next one, and I just loved it. It was so, it's not like Mando or anything like that where I'm like, this is a fucking gorgeous, beautiful masterpiece. This is like borderline real Star Wars. It's not like that, but I thoroughly enjoyed both these episodes, and they meant a lot to me because a lot of what they were going through and what they were kind of discovering is stuff I went through as a kid. And, even whims like desires and wants, there's a scene where, yeah, spoilers, by the way, he's in his classroom, and this one was like hit home for me. Like it was even right now I was able to relate to this. Like it just Yeah, this is like literally me right now, and it is like it was the craziest like experience. It's like there's no way they're doing this in Star Wars. It's like holy shit. But he's in this classroom, and everyone's in the classroom's like, I want to be an accountant. I want to be a blah blah blah. You know, all these like banking and you know, just AI bullshit jobs, those 9 to 5s. And then this kid is like, I want to be some, you know, what was it like? I want to do something that helps people. And I want to go on like adventures and stuff. And then later on, Neil, which I fucking love, I adore Neil. He's the best, bro. Fucking Neil. I'm gonna get a Neil poster and put it on my wall. Not even kidding. It'll probably be. I'll try to put it in frame somewhere. But yeah. Anyways, so yeah, he's talking about how I want to be, you know, go on adventures and I want to help people, and then the fucking school's like, that's not a real job, and everyone's like laughing at him. Then he goes outside and Neil's like, so you basically said you want to be a Jedi, right? And he's like, no, I didn't. Neil's like, yes, you did. That was a scene for me that was really hit home, because as a kid, you know, or not even as a kid, I'll talk about, you know, as of now, you know, I'm like, oh, I want to be a director, producer, writer. People are like, what the fuck? Like, that's not a job. My parents say that to me pretty much. They pretend like they don't, but they do. And, you know, whenever I say that to another adult, they're like, ooh, you're going to be fucking homeless. It's like, wow, that's great. You know, thank you for the encouragement. Does it drive me more to get it done and become that? Yeah, but does it feel like shit for a minute? Yeah. Okay, and then, you know, it's like they don't fucking believe in you. And then in this show, you know, Wim has kind of a similar thing with his dad. Like his dad walks in and he's like, you need to go to bed. You're not going to go on any adventures. Like, grow up. He told him, grow up. And he slammed the door. And that was another one for me that I was like, fuck. That's literally, I'm literally that character right now. And I've always been that character. Like, it's not even something like, you know, I mean, look at this, right? And look at my fucking my Funko collection over there. It's insane. I have so many, and my lightsabers, and my whole room is movies and you know, Star Wars and just otherworldly things. You know, not there. I mean, sure, there's like pirates and Batman, but that's like still, it takes you out of this lame ass fucking place, and you get to explore somewhere else, right? So that alone, you know, I get shit for from a lot of people. Um, most I'd say. Uh, you know, and seeing a character in Star Wars get shit like that too was like I don't know, it was like a really personal, I think, experience. Um and you know, and I thought, okay, these characters are kids. There's no way in hell I'm gonna be able to connect with them, or like, I was like, what the fuck? I'm not. There's no way. You know, and then I'm really really connected with Wim in the first episode. I'm already like, I completely understand him, you know, and I completely understand Neil, right? And I completely understand Fern and the other one. Like, I see their characters already individually in the first 2 episodes, and that's insane. Like, that is a level of development that you do not see a lot in modern day Hollywood. Like, it's very scarce because storytelling has become so just driven by agenda and by like these cookie cutter plots that character isn't even fucking considered anymore. But this show really has heart, and the character development in this show already has been just so good, and I already care about all 4 of those kids. And the thing is, I don't give a shit about the Bad Batch, and you guys know this. Like, the very few times I even talked about it because I just didn't give a shit, you know, I said out, I don't care. Like, make them die. I don't give a shit. Like, Omega, she can go fucking get killed by Vader and hunt. I don't care, right? I just didn't care. This show, I care. Like, I care about the characters. I don't want them to fucking die, and I don't want them to, you know, I don't want anything bad to happen to them. And, I think they're interesting. I think they're cool, and I'm able to relate to them. So I'm like, you know what? They did more in those first two episodes for character development than they have since, like, Mando. Because Mando was the same thing. Day one, I just loved Din. And I, like, could not imagine anything horrible happening to him. And even in Mando season 3, I was like, there was a moment where I thought he was gonna die, and I was like, fuck, are you kidding me? And then obviously he didn't, so I could breathe. But like, when you're able to just really connect with characters like that, it's a really cool experience, where I'm not like looking, oh, well, who's this now? Who's this new lame character? It's like, no, I just genuinely really loved all four of them. And I feel like I'm gonna really love Jode once we see more of him, because he was just in the last scene of the second episode, just for like 10 seconds. And he uses the Force to lift the key, and Mick Giacchino played the Force theme, and I was like, oh, come on. That was something. Yeah, that was really cool. And then he flips his hood. I feel like he's gonna be really cool. He's gonna be like Han Solo, but a Jedi, and that's gonna be like the coolest shit ever, dude. Or maybe he's not. I have a feeling, you know how on Kenobi, what's his name? Kumail Nanjiani's character. What's his name? I forgot his name now, but he had those like magnets in his sleeve, and he tricked everyone into thinking he's a Jedi for money. I feel like that's what Jode is using. I feel like he's using those like magnet things, and that's how he lifted the key. But that's a very mysterious part, because it's like, why didn't he get the key earlier to escape? Like, what's the deal? Like, is he working with them? Like, is he waiting for a ship, right? We have all these questions, which is what a good cliffhanger should leave you with as we move to the third episode. So I'm very curious to see, where the heck why he's still there, but yeah, that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, plot wise, character development wise, I'm very, very impressed. Like, very impressed with Lucasfilm and how they finally made a live action show that isn't Mando, that I really genuinely care about the characters. And, I love Cassian Andor, but that was established in Rogue One. So, like, as for the other background characters in Andor, Luthen Rael's really cool. That's one I cared about. But other than that, maybe Kino Loy. Other than those three, I'd say I just didn't care. Like, they're just disposable. But in this show, it's like everyone we meet is just lovable. Like, even the droid, SM-33, is just lovable, instantly. He's like this cool, like, first mate captain on a pirate ship, but he's a droid, and he's in Star Wars. So it's like the coolest combo ever. He reminds me of Smee a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of who he reminded me of. But yeah, like that, the whole part in the opening scene, the blaster battle and the sound design, and like how, it was reminiscent of A New Hope, where everyone's standing there with their blasters, and it's just this huge shootout. It's like, I was like, this grin on my face I have not had watching a new Star Wars project, and, probably since Ahsoka, dude. Like, it's been fucking wild. But yeah, that blaster fight was crazy. It was so cool, and it was intense, and you saw all these different creatures and like things you haven't seen before, but then you saw Vane, and you saw the werewolf guys. So you've seen people you're kind of familiar with already, but then everyone else, like, they're these new characters and new creatures, and you're like, just like, whoa, there's so much going on. And one of the Mahonic, the pod racer Mahonic, he's like, I forget his species name, but he has like the three eyes. So there's like one of his species, but he's a pirate. He gets one of his eyes shot off, and that was like, I was like, oh shit, they're actually like, they're pushing it a little. Not really, but like, it's something. Um, and then it also gave me kind of Pirates of the Caribbean vibes at some point. Like the music that's played when they're walking through this port. It's called Port Borgo. Very reminiscent of Pirates of the Caribbean, and it made me very happy because I'm a huge Pirates fan. So that was cool, and even the way like it was shot, and you see all the different like pirates, and they're all like very different from each other, and they're and Star Wars, so they're weird, and it's all these aliens and the cool sets and everything. It was like kind of reminded me of the Tortuga scene from the first film, where you just get a bunch of shots of all these different just drunken pirates like shooting and whatever. Like it was a similar thing, minus the violence, but that was so cool. And that's another thing. There's a lot. I really love pretty much everything about this show so far. And the thing is, the next thing I'm getting to is the droids, creatures, and sets. And these are the three things that have been just absent from these shows, just insanely absent from Andor. Andor is all just humans. And that's, I think, part of the reason why it just didn't feel like Star Wars. It is a beautifully written show, but it does not feel like Star Wars at all. And then being able to see this show in comparison to Andor, and I'd say even Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is all humans. Sure, there's Freck, but that's like it. And who else? The weird lizard dude on the roof. Like, there is no, like, it is humans only, humans only. And finally, in this show, this is the most creatures I've seen in a Disney Star Wars product. Easily. And one of the most aliens I've seen in just Star Wars in general. The amount of different species we see just in those first two episodes is insane. I mean, the budget that this show had, like, I don't even know. Maybe it's because it looked 300 times better than The Acolyte, but I'm sure somehow the budget is lower, which is hilarious, because I feel like that would have been kind of like swirling at this point, but I'll have to look it up. But if it had a really high budget, that would make sense because you see it. I see the high budget. I see the intricacies of all the different creatures, and Legacy Effects did an amazing job with them and the droids. Like, just incredible, artistic work, on all of them and how they work and how they move, how they are designed, the gear they have. It, like, tells the story of that alien without explicitly telling it. And that's something George always did. So that was awesome. I was like, dude, this is sick. Especially once we got to the port, like, just all these weird creatures. And that's why I love those scenes in Star Wars with, like, just all the weird creatures, like the cantina scene, or the Jedi Rock scene in Return of the Jedi, or the pod racing scene in Episode 1. Like, any of those, like, where you just see all these different species and cultures, and you see how they behave and compared to the other one, and it's like this very cool, like, kind of like psychological study on how these different cultures think and move and act. It's really cool. And not only that, they're weird. You've never seen things like this before anywhere, right? And it's like, it's intriguing, honestly. You're like, what the hell is that? Right? Like, seeing I remember very specifically seeing Snoodles for the first time. And I was little. I was like 4. And I just could not stop laughing. I was like, what the heck is this? But, that's like what Star Wars should do. It should have all these really cool creatures, and some are silly too, and that was just like, it was really funny to me. Because it's just so weird. Like, it was so weird. And she's like singing in this jazz bar. I was like, what the, it was weird. But yeah, the creatures and droid design. Oh yeah, and the droids, they were all so unique and like different from what we've seen. And then they paid homage to Star Tours with an RX series, pilot droid, and that was sick. Like I already talked about SM-33, which makes sense for him being which for me, under thinking he's Smee, because that literally kind of the name translates to Smee pretty much. SM and then a 3-3, when you write 3-3 and you're trying to make it into a word, those are normally E's. So I'm pretty sure he was intentionally based upon Smee, and, Disney owns Star Wars, so I'm sure they allowed that. So that was, that was awesome. So, and the sets were so detailed and like maximalist that like I could have just paused the frame and looked around and seen all these just different things I've never seen before and really understood the world, and then unpause, go to the next frame, pause, next shot, and then pause, and then you look again. Like, there was so much going on, and it felt so lived in, and it felt so real. Even on at Aden, which is supposed to be slick and like kind of a treasured planet that people, I guess, don't think exists, which is what made me, be okay with that planet. But, seeing, even just being in Wim's house, you have all these different things, and then going to Neil's house and seeing how it's different. Like, the production design was just top tier. Like, I want to know who did that. I'm going to have to look it up because they are very, very good at their job. And if this show does not win an Emmy, at least one Emmy, for production design, the Emmys are corrupt. Because honestly, there is no show on earth that is going to have the production design level of this show for this year. Like, there just isn't. Like, this wins. Like, out of all the shows I've seen this year, this wins for production design. And costume, this also wins. Because all the aliens and creatures, right? Like, easily 2 Emmys. Now, the story goes to the Penguin and all that. Best actress, actor goes to the Penguin. All the story-related stuff easily goes to the Penguin. And not saying the Penguin doesn't have amazing visuals, because it does. But it's not Star Wars, and Star Wars is a lot more interesting than Earth. Like, that's just kind of objective. So, yeah, that's one thing. And then, circling back to the first topic, which was about, how there was a lot of, like, kind of nostalgia in this show. There's a scene, not a scene, it's not even, it's like a moment within a scene within the first episode that Neil and Wim are, like, fake saber playing pretend with, like, these hilts that they made, and they're, like, fake saber dueling, and that, like, just brought me back, man, to, like, being, like, 6 years old and being at my cousin's house, and we just go at it for hours, and then even here at my house, with my friends, we just duel the crap out of each other, and then another one of my cousins, we duel a lot here, and it was, like, it brought all those memories back of just being a kid, a, like, kid who just saw the world as this fun, cool place, and with a big, open, creative... I have a very creative mind now, but, like, it was different. Like, you could put yourself in a scene and, like, progress the story in the moment. Like, that is a skill. People don't realize that, like, the playing pretend thing was crazy. Like, dude, I'd have a whole lore, and I'd remember it, like, playing Star Wars when I was, like, 5. Like, I'd have all this lore in my head and, like, remember, me and my friend would leave and then come back a different day, and, like, we'd just pick up where we left off. Like, we should have been writing that shit down. It would have been horrible, but, it just shows how, like, the child's mind's working, and then the more they go through school, the more it just farts out, and you have to fight really hard to keep it in there. But yeah, like, that was the saber dueling part. That was oh my, that was everything to me. That, yeah, it was just perfect. And then, the whole, I guess, point of this show, not the point, but, like, the inciting action of this show was kids wanting to go on an adventure. And you know the amount of times I've been running through like some nature, you know, whether it's a forest like them or something, and I imagined as a kid like finding like a secret bunker and like going inside of it and exploring, and then like we get taken to a different place like that, not like kidnapped, but like, you know, we encounter these things. It's like Indiana Jones, right, with all these skeletons. Like that is every child's like fantasy. And that I saw it come true, and it was like the weirdest, coolest experience ever. You know, and then they have all the skeletons in there, and like it was like Indiana Jones, and then I reminded from when I saw Indy for the first time as a kid, and um you know, and how my reaction to them going through the Temple of the Golden Idol. I know that's not the official name, but you know, where he gets the idol, the opening of Raiders of the Lost Ark, and how like I felt exactly how Indy did in all those moments, and probably more scared to be honest, because like especially the scene where he twists around and sees like Sapato with like spikes through him. That was like a jump scare to me as a kid, you know. Um, but yeah, it brought all those memories back. It was just like such a joyride. That's how I describe this show. It's like a wizard joyride. Like you just every second of it, you're brought back to something. Even the dynamic of Wim and Neil and their friendship is so similar to me and one of my closest friends. It was like it was like the weirdest, coolest thing. Just, it was so, I don't know, that show was so personal, but it had nothing to do with me. You know, and Theory also really likes it too, which is cool. Which just kind of shows we're so like synced, and it's not even intentional. Like we just are. Like because there is an objective kind of viewpoint of looking at Star Wars, you know, like that's the thing. Um yeah, of things, patterns we notice, and we're both super, you know, like George Lucas Star Wars only kind of people. Yeah, and you know, for me as I was watching, I was like, yeah, sure, this does not feel like 1 through 6 or, you know, anything at all, but it's fine because it doesn't need to. This is a scenario where we're not doing anything with the Skywalker saga, nothing with the Empire, no like Skywalker's like nothing. And we're way just out in a different corner of the galaxy. Sure, Mando's happening right now, but that's all the way over there and we're all the way over here. So what's going on is going to be a lot different. And you know, the plot of this show is we're following this group of kids on an adventure. It's not like this huge political war going on and these secret societies building up. It's like, no, we're all the way out in this corner of the galaxy following this awesome group of you know, kids. But yeah, like it doesn't matter. Sure, like would I want every single Star Wars project to be this like, you know, loosey goosey and just kind of free feeling and like, you know, kind of not related to Skyward Saga? No. But am I perfectly fine with it being like this for a show or 3 or 2 or I don't know, however many, you know, that's reasonable? Sure, you know. And I think that's the point of this show, is it's a signature show. Like there's nothing like it, you know, and there's nothing that will be like it in Star Wars. So they're kind of like just nailing this genre for this show, and I don't think they're gonna retrace it again in a different show, you know. I just don't see that happening, to be honest with you. Yeah, but it was, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I have to say. I covered that. I covered the kids. I covered yeah. I went over the opening scene, yeah, with the blasting and, yeah, and then one last thing that's like part of the nostalgia piece is Wim with his like data pad scrolling through like these stories of and legends of these like Jedi just exploring the galaxy and battling the dark side. Like kind of it's a concurrent thing throughout the show, at least heavily through the first episode. That was like me with my Star Wars books back then. Like that was the exact same thing. Like I had the very first Star Wars character encyclopedia, like the little one that's like just the main, not even the main characters, but like the significant ones who people recognize and stuff. I have the new one somewhere, but I used that book so much that it fell apart. Like the hardcover literally fell off the pages and it just like fell in front of me one day when I was reading it. Like I read the crap out of it, and that's how I know the names of like the weirdest characters so well, is because that was like scanned into my brain as a kid pretty much from flipping through that book so much. Then of course I got all the new ones, but it was that one, and it was those like easy read Star Wars books. Like I'm talking when I was really little. And then I got more and more advanced with the bigger encyclopedias, and the novels were introduced later on, and all that stuff. And then of course Book of Sith was crazy to me. Like that was like the most in-depth in-lore thing that I thought existed when I was young. And then the Jedi Path, Bounty Hunter Code, the Star Wars like ships books, like all that, like it just took you into this other place, and you saw how things worked, and you learned things about characters that you didn't see on screen. It was like the coolest thing, and that's exactly feel like how Wim was feeling scrolling through those like old Jedi, I guess, stories. So it's like a similar thing to me. But yeah, that's about all I have to say. The plot's really cool. They're now in a jail cell with Jode, and I'm very curious to see where the heck the story is going to go from here. Of course, they'll team up with Jode somehow and get off this port somehow, but I don't know how. And we'll figure out if Jode's really a Jedi or not. That'll be really interesting to see, the kids' reactions to that too. And then I'll just get more of Neil, because he's like honestly goated. Like he's one of my favorite like weird just like Jar Jar and Boss Nass and like Ben Quadraneros, and like Jar Jar's above. I'd say he's above like just one of those weird characters. So I'd say like Boss Nass and Ben Quadraneros and Boss Leone and not like like those weird Sebulba and like just those weird goofy characters throughout Star Wars that kind of just appear. And like Neil, I'd say he's a step above them. Like he is just like, he's a character with a story and an arc, but he is just goofy and like funny and hilarious, and I'm here for it. So yeah, this show is looking great. And Acolyte, from the start I had issues with it. I thought the first two were they were like mid, but I was like, okay, maybe this will be okay as we move on. With this show, I just see it going in a positive direction, but of course, with what we've seen, they can always just disappoint you at every turn. So, so far, so good. I can't wait for the third one. I'm actually excited. I'm not very worried for this show. That's what I will say. There's not like, when I was going into it, I was very scared, but now seeing the first two and knowing that Christopher Ford and John Watts are basically wrote the whole show, and they might have literally wrote the whole show, just makes me understand that it's going to be the same kind of vibe we've gotten so far, but throughout the whole show. So I'm not really worried anymore. But of course, there's always the, Kathleen Kennedy interference that can occur, like it did with Mando season 3. But she went in there for the whole season and screwed that show over, which was horrible. So, thank you, Kathy, for being wonderful. But, yeah, You know, and Jon Favreau is an executive producer, so that always helps, you know, with Jon as there to kind of keep things straight. That's always, you know, pretty cool. But yeah, I'm excited. So episode 3, I'll give you my review as well on here next week. But I will see you guys in the next one. Leave a like, subscribe, and share. May the force be with you always.